That Stud Circle was good friends with your father?
Yeah, and that's why that was an important story to me. He is the guy who took my dad out for a drink the night I was born. So I really did know Studs my entire life.
When were you assigned the obituary?
About 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, they do that at newspapers with prominent people. If Studs Terkel, the famous author, activist, radio personality, Studs got a cold and, when he was 82. And I said, Rick, Studs is in trouble. You got to start his obituary. He didn't die till he was 96 years old. So they just don't want to be caught off guard.
Would I call Mayor Daley my friend? I would like to. I'm not on any type of inner circle. He's been very, very kind to me, as Mrs. Daley has when she was alive, and I have the greatest respect for them personally and professionally.
Daley grew up in an era when he and his buddies from Bridgeport would go out and beat up people, strangers, black people, who dared to come into that. There's got to be, you'd have to psychoanalyze Richard J. Daley for decades to figure out if there was any racist belief there. I think it was all spun with, look, these are nice, clean buildings. I don't think anybody, and even he, ever anticipated how drugs and gangs could wind up so much more easily controlling those things and making life more miserable for the people just trying to get by there. I think that's why one of the reasons his son, it takes a long time with big projects to realize the mistake that they often are.
I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and I understood how the Democratic machine worked. We had a precinct captain, and he went door to door and made sure everything that you needed was taken care of. And you really appreciated that.
As Studs Terkel once said, Chicago's not just corrupt, it's theatrically corrupt. Daley left this city with a horrifying budget deficit that Emanuel is trying to fix.
This man has taken over a job when I think anybody in their right mind to run for public office is really crazy in this economy. And yet he's taken it on, and he's taken on some sacred cows.
I'm appalled at the way he's beaten up on teachers.
He's taken on teachers and unions. And
I am appalled by the way he has beaten up on unions. The unions made this town, and there have been huge battles over unions in this town too. This is where we got the 8-hour day in this very city.
I like Mayor Emanuel. I happen to have known him for a number of years. And,
personally?
He and I email back and forth, and I know another side of him sometimes that doesn't always. He's been enormously kind to me. Everyone sees how tough he is, and he is, but...
Do you know Rom?
I've had a couple weird encounters with him. One of his first interviews was on that stage with me, and it was tense. It was weird. I thought he was quite adversarial, not without a bit of charm, but. And then he did, then he called and wanted to do the radio show, and I said sure. So, he's obviously incredibly smart. Incredibly smart. Do I see him being mayor for 20 years? No.
Why not?
I don't know. I think his ambitions are beyond that.
A number of years ago, my phone rang one day, and he said, "Father, this is Rahm Emanuel." He said, "I'm on my way over to the U.S. Capitol to be sworn into Congress. I want you to have my cell phone number. If you ever think I'm doing something about which you do not approve, I want you to call me." And I've never forgotten that. And that touched my heart deeply. That he gave me a number where if I thought something he was doing in Congress I didn't think was good, he gave me the right to call him. That touched my heart. Beginning to charge not-for-profits for public services because we need the money. I give him credit for doing that. I admire that. He's gutsy. He doesn't dodge a question. Because of my 4.5 years involved with the Ethics Commission in the state, he's been about ethics reform. he's getting pretty high praise right now from some very tough people in the city.
Jane Byrne is one of the greatest long shots in the history of American politics.
I do remember Jane Byrne moving into Cabrini Green. I was so proud of her. Who the hell wants to live in Cabrini Green? That was hard.
I heard she got a lot of negative feedback from that.
She got negative feedback calling it a stunt. I don't know. Let's say it is a stunt. You had the mayor of the city moving into Cabrini Green and highlighting that problem, and she was living in a room with the, I mean, it was lousy. That's the worst of the worst. There's cockroaches. It's a bit, just a terrible neighborhood. There are plenty of their middle class, black neighborhoods. There were those. She didn't move into those. She moved into the worst. So I didn't think it was a stunt. I thought she did a good job. It was nice of her.
A PR stunt. PR stunt. Yeah, they moved in. I don't remember this specifically, but I remember they moved in. They were there for 2 days with a police guard, and I mean, it's an absolute publicity stunt.
Is there such thing as good Chicago politics?
Yes, there is. I think there's a lot of misnomer, misunderstanding. There's a lot of, I would call it suburban gossip. Name a better big city that works, and you'd be hard-pressed to find one.
My favorite place in the world, close enough to the Loop, is the middle of the Michigan Avenue Bridge. It's close to here, so that every single day before I come to work, I go stand in the middle of that bridge. Because it gives me a sense of history and of place. I mean, I stand in that bridge and I look down, and that is where John DuSable, a black man, built a home, becoming the first permanent resident of the city of Chicago, a black man. Then I look at the river and I go, wow, the river flows backwards. It's amazing. These geniuses transformed that in 1900 to save the city. Then I can see on the pavement the outline of Fort Dearborn, the fort that basically founded this city. And then I can look all around and see the Wrigley Building, the Tribune Tower, and even Trump Tower. And a couple of years ago, you saw, construction cranes all over the place. So it all came together for me. I mean, it all came together, the future and the past and the present, and it's a remarkable place, in the middle of that bridge.